My wife and I were married for 13 years. In the 8th year of our marriage, my brother was sentenced to 5 years in prison. At this point in her life, my wife and I both worked full-time, but it just so happened that she was off during visiting hours at the prison. I asked her to start visiting him for me once a week. She could video call me while she was there so I could see him, but it was hard for him to hear anything I said. I wrote him letters that she'd bring. I was able to get off work a few times to visit him, but it wasn't more than 5 times in 5 years. I felt bad, but my wife and I had an expensive mortgage, debt, and bills to pay. I also felt like it wouldn't make much of a difference if I visited him in person or sent my wife to visit on my behalf. She paid him a visit once a week until the day he got out. My wife started talking about him a little more closer to the time of his release. She was really concerned about him having a place to move into and asked several times if he could move in with us. I didn't feel comfortable with that. I knew that after 5 years in prison, my brother was going to need room to spread his wings and enjoy the company of a woman. Since I was financially stable, I got him an apartment nearby. My wife started going to his place any chance she got to bring him food or help keep his house clean. This is about the time I started to realize she was behaving more like a wife for him. I planned on talking to her about it, but my brother got to me first. While she was at work one day, my brother came over. I was surprised when he came right out and said I worked too much and was falling short of loving my wife. I asked him what he meant and why he was saying this. He said he got to know her quite a bit over the past 5 years, and she confided in him as she wished I worked less. I asked why she didn't feel like she could talk to me about it, and to that, my brother just shrugged. He said it might be my fault she was so attached to him. I didn't like him saying that either, and I didn't know how to respond. I knew he was hinting towards how I'd sent my wife all those times to see him in prison instead of going myself. After this interaction with him, my wife continued going to his apartment while I was at work. She never told me about these visits. When I asked her not to go over there anymore, she didn't even flinch. She continued visiting him until my brother admitted to it. I forbade her to go over there anymore, but that didn't make a difference. I still had to work, so she still got to see him whenever I was home. The house was full of tension. We both knew she was betraying me by continuing to visit my brother. We both knew I suspected them of sleeping with each other, but neither of them would admit to something like that. The tension was filled with silence. One day, I decided to surprise my wife. I convinced myself that she wasn't cheating on me because they couldn't do that to me. They loved and cared about me. Starting an affair should have been impossible due to the genuine concern for me that I thought they had. I love my wife, so I bought her roses and her favorite chocolate on the way home. I entered the front door quietly and snuck up behind her as she stood at the kitchen table. She was holding her phone, looking through pictures of her and my brother. She stopped to stare at the picture of them kissing in shock. I gasped. She turned around, so I slapped her with roses. I told her to get out and started frantically scooping her clothes out of the dressers and into trash bags. She was just crying as she packed her essentials and the bags I gave her into her car and left. I sold the rest of her things, including her collection of expensive purses. Of course, she went to live with my brother, and I found out they were in a sexual relationship since the day he got out of prison. For 3 months, my wife thought she was doing the right thing. She thought she could live happily ever after with my brother after our divorce was final. Not even a week after that, my brother was arrested and taken back to jail. He's facing another felony charge. My ex lost her mind. She couldn't stay in his apartment without him, so she started begging me for forgiveness. She said she knew she messed up, but this was just something that happened sometimes. It was no more than an unavoidable accident, and she swore now that this happened to her, she would never ever let it happen again. Around the same time, my brother was begging me from behind bars for money or lawyer representation. I knew both of them were only out for themselves. I knew that if I kept entertaining them, they would only ever take advantage and hurt me. So, from the foreseeable future, I decided to cut them both out of my life. It was extremely difficult because I was left without any relationship to compare to the ones I lost. But I didn't lose them because of anything I did. I lost them because they weren't worth having. I did everything I could to involve myself in social events and family gatherings, even though I felt like secluding myself. It paid off because on the days when I couldn't bring myself to leave the house, I had people out there waiting for me. They reached out, and when I didn't respond, they'd pay me a visit in person. Sometimes that was what I needed. I met a guy that I'm happy to call my best friend. It might be cheesy, but I'm glad I survived this double betrayal. I didn't give up on life or quit my job, even though I heavily considered it. My conclusion and advice to the author of this story. Wow, what a roller coaster of emotions and challenges you've been through. It's commendable that you managed to navigate such a difficult situation and come out on the other side. Discovering betrayal from both your wife and brother is an incredibly tough pill to swallow, but it's clear that you made a resilient decision to prioritize your own well-being. Firstly, I want to acknowledge your strength in facing such a painful betrayal. It's crucial to recognize that you are not responsible for the actions of others, and you made the right choice in cutting toxic people out of your life. Moving forward, continue to focus on your own happiness and growth. Consider seeking professional support, such as therapy or counseling, to help process the emotional aftermath of these events. It's entirely normal to experience a range of emotions, and talking to someone can provide valuable perspectives and coping strategies. As you rebuild your life, remember to surround yourself with positive influences and maintain connections with friends and family who genuinely care about you. It's heartening to hear that you've already made efforts to engage in social events and family gatherings. Keep nurturing those connections, and don't hesitate to lean on your support network during challenging times. Lastly, be patient with yourself. Healing takes time, and it's okay to experience moments of vulnerability. Your decision to persevere through such a difficult period is a testament to your resilience. Embrace the positive aspects of your life and allow yourself the space to grow and find happiness anew.